ask is, if we have to give these bastards our lives, we give them hell before we do!
The tragedy of our day is the climate of fear in which we live.
Talking about the Salomon Brothers building collapsing.
I would ask the congressman to withdraw that comment and tell us that he didn't really mean that.
Half the stuff before they do what I call nastiness.
I don't know what I said. I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
The Bible commands that certain people be put to death.
Thieves or possesses weapons of mass destruction. 9/11 attacks were carried out by Al-Qaeda.
Handle the truth.
I remember that with that smoke. We are still here!
We have to say yes to socialism.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode on the least comfortable show on the web of the least trusted name in news. It is, of course, the AntiNews, the place where I typically say this is where we have drinks and we smoke smokes and we sit back and watch the world burn and make fun of it while it does. And I don't think that feels appropriate anymore, as the world is literally burning, but we're probably going to do it anyway.
Literally on fire right now. Like
the
entire
roof
world is on fire.
In the words of, I think it was Aristotle, the roof is on fire.
I think
you don't need no water. Let the motherfucker burn. Burn, motherfucker. Burn.
Wow.
Aristotle. Don't fact check me on that. Or anything else that we're going to talk about, please.
Right.
And I'm joined, of course, as always, by the glorious and beautiful and lovely bearded lately.
Lately?
Well, it's getting more glorious as time goes on. It's looking
Corona.
It's looking more and more like some guy from like a biker band or something. Like maybe from Disturbed or something like that.
Yeah, I gotta let people see it better. My mic was blocking. See, maybe I should do this so people can see my beard more.
Joined by douchebag Craig, the host of the new podcast, Taco Bell podcast, I believe is what it's called.
That's exactly what it's called.
You talk like 12 times before I actually get done with my introduction of you. But Craig, how's it going?
That's because you keep saying ridiculous shit about me that I have to interject on.
It's kind of my thing. But how are you?
I'm good. Doing good.
Good. Let's talk. Let's never stop talking about it, Craig. What is this new endeavor that you're going on after you've been fired multiple times from this show for muting your mic too many times? Also, who's going to correct you if you're doing another podcast where you're both in the same room and he can't tell that your mic is muted the entire fucking time?
Actually, we recorded the last announcement video I think Thursday night, and it took like 10 tries because the music was too quiet when I'd started, or there was one time when we got like halfway through and I realized both my microphones were muted. So probably gonna have to fire myself at some point, but I am starting a new endeavor, as you said, a new podcast with my friend Bill. Craig and Bill, best two names in podcasting.
Can we get a Snapchat filter that's the Bill filter?
The Bill filter, yes. Yes. That joke's only funny if you know what his name is.
Yep.
I told him he needs to start his own podcast called Bill Unfiltered.
Nice.
Yeah. But
yeah, if you do like a Patreon, you could have him just like getting drunk and ranting angrily and call it Bill Unfiltered.
That would be awesome. That is a great idea. I'm stealing that. Bill, if you're listening, we're doing that.
Yeah.
No, we're starting a podcast.
20% of the profits.
Okay, so you get like 2 pennies out of every dime.
Probably means I have to pay something.
Probably. So I am starting a podcast with my friend Bill called the Break the Bell podcast. I have been
Craig and Bill
spamming
show.
Break the Bill show.
The Craig and Bill show.
There you go. Craig the Bill instead of Break the Bill.
The two whitest names for the two whitest people.
I never claimed to not be white, so
It's true.
I'm sorry. I apologize for my whiteness now. I apologize that I don't have the right colors in my skin. Anyway, how many times can we get back to on topic?
So let's talk about the news.
My God. Oh, I'm so glad I'm hosting my own show because I can just do whatever I want and not
mute yourself instead of having me mute you.
Exactly. Anyway, starting a podcast, Break the Bell. We've noticed recently that on a personal level that everything's getting censored lately, like more so even than usual. Like you got censored trying to personal message me on Facebook something the other day.
I did. It was just like a conspiracy thing, and I was like, what do you think of this? And as soon as I hit enter, they were like, nope, you can't send that link. And so I sent you a screenshot of the link, and you're like, what is this? It was a private message censored. That's new.
I didn't even know that was a thing. So now we can't just lie to each other on a personal level. Facebook thinks it needs to take charge of that as well.
Yes.
And so the whole kind of basis around the name, at least, Break the Bell podcast is we are kind of really getting sick of our freedoms and liberties being trampled on or just given up freely. Like there's so many people that are just willingly giving up their freedom and their liberties for security reasons. They think the government's going to take care of them more. Kind of take you back to what was the act after 9/11 where they
the Patriot Act.
The Patriot Act. There you go. It's the Patriotic Patriot Act. We willingly just said, hey, here's all our rights. Fight terrorism. Go find the terrorists with our rights given up. And so we're finding
cut my balls by the TSA for freedom.
Exactly. So I think it's just getting more and more, little by little, we're just like giving up more and more rights. And the biggest right I think we have that we need to not give up is our right to keep doing this and talking about whatever the hell we want to without worrying about people censoring us or worrying about people like writing bullshit articles about us. And so that's what I'm doing. We are just going to keep talking. It's called the Break the Bell podcast because the whole basis behind my computer just did something weird. The Liberty Bell, how it rang for freedoms and it cracked. And so we just kind of said, hey, we're just going to keep on ringing it until that freaking bell breaks. And it's going from there. My first episode is releasing this Wednesday. The shitty part is it is a current events style current news event update style podcast. And so the shitty part about that is if you record your first episode a week in advance, a lot of shit can happen before, and then you realize we're going to have to do this again. So
anytime you talk about anything current, and I found that with even like interviews and stuff like that, like I interviewed Mark Whitney and it was a great interview. And then I was going to release it like a couple weeks later, and then he drops out of the race. I'm like, well, shit. I guess.
How's this work now?
Yeah, I still put it out because it was a fun conversation, but it's like, yeah, when you're talking about anything current, even in like politics or running or anything like that, you never know what's going to happen the next day. So you pretty much got to record it. Oh, you either got to do it live or you got to record it the night before at least.
Well, yeah, we decided we're going to go like 2 days out minimum because, well, the whole episode we released recorded the other day had some pretty like interesting topics that still are current right now, but with a world literally burning now, I felt we couldn't just release an episode of current events without talking about a little bit about the world burning. So
it would be tone deaf if you're like, well, the world's burning, but we're going to talk about this squirrel on jet skis. Yeah. So where can people find this podcast, Craig?
You can go to, right now it's on our YouTube channel. I have to look and see what it's actually named, which is really ridiculous. So it's Break the Bell Podcast is the YouTube channel. We are working out the kinks to get put up on the podcast platforms such as like Podbean and
etc.
Apple and etc. Also, we're all over the social medias. You can find us at facebook.com/breakthebell. You can find us at Twitter at Break the Bell Pod, or Instagram, same handle, Break the Bell Pod.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna have them all the same handle, but then after I set up the Facebook one, I went to do Twitter, and that was already taken. So I had
the same issue, the exact same issue. That's why I have the system is down and TSID Pod and all these other things.
But then by that point, I didn't want to go back and change Facebook because I didn't want to.
Yep.
So yeah, you can right now on Wednesday, you'll be able to find it on YouTube or right there on the Facebook page. I also have a forum going, which is pretty similar to the System is Down forum. Just come in and chat and bullshit and give your opinions. You can just
it's not as fun though.
It's probably not. Break the Bell forum. Just look it up. Otherwise, yeah, just subscribe on the YouTube video, and then you will keep finding the videos as we post them. It's really funny.
Do you have a domain purchased yet?
Working on that.
What do you want?
By the end of the year. I had one. I can't remember.
Breakthebell.com is already taken.
I know. Just probably breakthebellpod.com.
What about breakthebellpodcast.com?
Or that works.
Because I'm about to purchase it from underneath you as we're having this conversation.
I will murder your ass, you Joe Biden son of a bitch.
Anyway, I'm not going to, but just know I could.
That would be a dick move. Was it you that posted that Joe Biden did that bullshit to Joe?
No. What are you talking about?
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
I missed this.
Joe Biden's team. But what was Joe Jorgensen's slogan? It was Joe for something. Do you remember?
I don't know.
It was like it was her Twitter handle too. Is at Joe for Freedom or something
Liberty,
like that.
Probably.
Joe for Liberty, maybe something like that. Anyway, that wasn't her webpage domain. However, Joe Biden went out, assumed, or his team. I know Uncle Joe didn't think this, but his team assumed that if you see the Twitter handle Joe for Freedom, you're going to be like probably type in that domain to go look for her website, joeforfreedom.com or joeforliberty.com, whatever it was. Joe Biden's team bought that domain name that was the same as her Twitter handle and redirects it to Joe Biden's thing.
Oh, man.
Like Joe for Liberty might actually stand for Joe Biden for Liberty. So,
right.
So then Joe had to go change her, ended up changing her Twitter handle to like Joe POTUS 2020 or something like that, just so to match her web domain name.
Let's talk about it a bit. So it's Joe J.O. for Liberty that he purchased out from under her.
Yeah, he purchased her actual Twitter.
So it's a blatant attack.
Well, she didn't actually have that for her website, but
right.
It was her Twitter handle, so people would just assume probably the same thing. So he purchased that domain name and redirected it back to Joe Biden.
It's not so much an insult or it's not so much like a bad thing that Joe Biden did that as it is an insult on her campaign team, which I might end up being a part of. So I'm not going to knock him or anything, but guys, get your shit together. If you don't know, if you didn't see that coming, come on now. Even I know that. I had goulashmedia.com was sniped out from underneath me. And who else is going to use that for anything beneficial?
Right. Seriously, who actually uses the word goulash anymore, let alone for a media business?
Right. And all the while that we're having this conversation, Craig is getting his domains all sniped out from underneath him for even bringing them up. But anyway,
that's okay. That's all right.
You'll find life finds a way.
I did get a Jeff Goldblum coffee mug for my birthday this year.
Nice.
And he's got a big old smile. I wish I had it here, but it's at work for a reason because my boss hates it because we talk about Jeff Goldblum all the time because he's my personal hero. And it's just this like big cheesy grin of Jeff Goldblum. And so I'll be drinking coffee in the morning, and then I'll just be like, what do you think, Jeff? And just start talking to my coffee mug, and it just pisses my boss off.
Yes. Anyway, let's talk about some news things, and we'll start off a little bit more lighthearted before we get into the fact that the world is burning. And Craig, if you want to pull up our feed, I know that we've got some comments in there from Keaton at the very least.
Keaton, I love you, Keaton.
Yes, indeed. But I do want to talk about, and it seems like such old news now because we've come such a long way in the last week, let alone the last month. Last month, all we could talk about was coronavirus again for another month in a row. But in the last week, so much has happened that I barely remember that the Libertarian National Convention online happened last weekend, where I spent 25 hours of my life sitting listening to people go through Robert's Rules of Order and debating over whether or not they were allowed to debate over whether or not they were allowed to debate over whether or not they were in order to have the current meeting that they were sitting in. It was madness. However, some good things came out of it. Yeah. It was ridiculous.
Before you wanted me to read this, Keaton's comments, I just want to read this one first. Keaton said, Craig just got done burning down O'Reilly's auto parts. Funny story, Keaton.
Forgot about that.
Funny story. The guy that was breaking the windows, and we'll probably get into this, he was wearing a gas mask, carrying the black umbrella. I literally have that same exact color of gas mask or like breather mask, and
the pink and purple
exact same hammer. Yeah, I have a purple and gray gas mask. And I also have a red-handled hammer like that. So I am convinced that I was actually there doing it.
Craig got super wasted and went out, and that's why it was just like it. We're getting ahead of ourselves, but it wasn't like people are speculating a cop trying to instigate violence. Craig was just like, I've got this hammer and it's really sunny out. I'm very ginger. So he had this umbrella and he just walks over. He's like, tap. That was fun. Tap. And everybody's like, stop. He's like, I don't know what's happening. And then he took off.
Oh, shit. I just broke that. I better go.
I did it again. Damn it. Anyway.
Why do I keep doing these things?
Obviously, the primary news of the day, which has kicked coronavirus out of the car for the mainstream media, is the riots and the protests and all those things for this George Floyd story. But I do want to talk about the thing that I was talking about first.
Sorry to interrupt.
It's all intertwined. It's fine. But 25 hours of this, and we go through arguing all Friday night, and then we went from 10 o'clock in the morning to like 11 o'clock p.m. on Saturday, deciding the presidential nominee, Vermin Supreme, who's like this big crazy joke that nobody can possibly understand, made it to round 4 of voting. So he was basically third. He was pretty close to tied for second place. It was a pretty close match, but yeah, everybody thought that it was just a joke and he was trolling the party, and then he ended up being third to second place in round 4, which was the final round before Joe Jorgensen took it home. And then Sunday was the vice presidential stuff, and all hell broke loose as it became very apparent that Spike Cohen was going to be the vice presidential nominee.
And then he showed his nipples.
Then he showed his nipples. Then he continued showing his nipples because Spike always shows his nipples. Spike, I've never been on a call with Spike where he was fully clothed. So I don't know why we're pretending like this is a new thing or like it's a big deal or anything, but the entire Libertarian Party erupted with their own personal fire when Spike went on an interview the next night, the Chrissy and Jess show, I believe it's called. And he took off his shirt and gave the interview shirtless. And everybody is like, this is why we can't take the Libertarian Party seriously. This is why the Libertarian Party is a joke. It's like,
that's why? That right there.
What about the last running? What about like the last 20 years of the Libertarian Party? Well, Spike wasn't running around with nips out then, making us be a joke.
He probably was. He just wasn't in the running.
Right. It's like he was elected, everybody knowing that this was a thing, and that's really not that important, especially for fucking libertarians. Are you kidding me?
Seriously.
Like, I don't know. If libertarians aren't able, if male libertarians are shamed for having their nipples out, then I don't know what the Libertarian Party fucking is.
What do we stand for now? So then, after all that kerfuffle, what did your man Vermin Supreme go and post?
So the same day as everybody's giving Spike a shit for having his nipples out, Vermin Supreme goes out and posts a picture of himself with the boot on and a tie on, and that's pretty much it. He's got a tie coming down all the way, for the most part, covering his junk, but he's standing there flexing in his sexy old man body, and just a tie and a boot and some. I liked the like knee-high dress socks and dress shoes too with it.
Absolutely. the whole get up was wonderful. It was a nice combination.
Then, of course, that picture was used for more than one convenience when Justin Amash posted something about, hey, conservatives, if you're disenfranchised, you can come over and join the Libertarian Party. And then Daddy Vermin Supreme goes on and comments with the picture of himself completely naked and only a tie and boot and says, yes, welcome, conservatives.
Well, they started inching their way in, and then Vermin posts that picture. They're like, no, I don't think so.
Right. No, we're going to be gay if we come in there. I don't want to be gay. Anyway, so yeah, Spike got all this backlash and everything, and it's just preposterous. Hashtag Nipplegate. And even Joe has said on a couple interviews, from what I've heard, I still haven't gotten to the points in these interviews. I've got like 3 different interviews that she's done open, and I still haven't gotten to the points that people are quoting necessarily, but apparently she said something to the effect of, when she was asked about Spike's nips, she said something like, yeah, those are just his antics. And these interviews, I've got like 3 different interviews that she's done. Hey, mute that shit. I still haven't gotten to the point. Stop revealing the fact that we are 2 of the 3 people watching this live stream right now. And now you're muted. So, yeah.
Fuck. You're the one that told me to monitor the feed, so I was trying to monitor the feed, and it went haywire.
Anyway, what was I saying?
I don't know. Nipples.
Well, yeah, Joe said something like, yeah, we talked to him about his antics, and he's going to tone it down a little bit, which I don't know if that's true or not, but
nah.
And she also said something, from what I hear, nothing against Joe yet until I hear it firsthand, but apparently she said something to the effect of the Vermin Supreme team were running a joke campaign and it's not serious, yada yada. It's like, yes, but we also brought in 10 times, more than 10 times the amount of people and donations and everything else as your campaign did, and I'm not going to vent right now because I'll get myself in trouble. But it's like, we have something to offer. Yes, there were jokes, and yes, that's what the kids want, though. That's why we brought so many people into the party. That's why we brought so much money into the party. And if you can't handle jokes, if you can't handle nips, maybe you're in the wrong party. Not you necessarily, Joe, but everybody else who is all pissed off about this nonsense of a man who happens to not have his nipples covered. And I asked in our group, I was like, if Spike came out and did an interview tomorrow, shirtless, but with his chest hair completely shaved, because that was one of their complaints, all that Jewish chest hair. His Jewish chest hair, yes. If he came out and shaved completely and wore pasties, would that make things A, better, B, worse, or C, all of the above?
I think it'd be perfect.
Wear some libertarian tassels.
Describe a libertarian tassel.
I feel like it would be little torches. Little torches that swing around.
That sounds really, really dangerous. Oh, yeah, definitely make sure you have your Jewish chest hair shaved if you're going to have mini torches from your nipples.
Of course. So that's that. Now, in my personal opinion, for what it's worth, which is almost nothing, I would say that the ticket has a whole lot of potential to bring a whole lot of unity to the party, because we've got this pragmatic female candidate. I know we don't like to go for like the identity politics and stuff like that, but the rest of the world does. So we've got this female who is sound on principles for the most part, and she's like the pragmatic, prim and proper. And then we've got Spike, who's like this crazy anarchist guy, but also is a genius when it comes to the message that he's speaking. Like, we have an opportunity here to actually unify both sides of the party, which is a big spectrum, and bring them together to make a lot of noise, where they can take us seriously on our message, but also can see that we are having fun with ourselves and not getting butthurt over some guy's nipples.
Exactly. But, I mean, that's the way the world works. We get outraged over stupid little things like that.
Right.
But
it's like,
then
we could have Gary Johnson and Bill Weld again, two former Republicans who were only libertarians for the sake of getting the nomination, who endorsed Hillary Clinton somehow and then ran for Republican. I'm talking about Bill Weld specifically, but these guys who were goofy clowns, goofy cis white clowns, like, we had nothing to gain from them being there. Now we have the opportunity of a diverse, a diverse cast with diverse messaging, all under the name of liberty.
Yep. So,
also, Spike's Jewish, so that helps.
How does that help?
Because people who don't understand libertarians, they jump to, oh, we're racists, we're Nazis, we're the soft alt-right, we are sexists and stuff like that. It's like, we've got a woman and a Jewish dude, so your move.
Define soft alt-right, because I was always under the impression that alt-right meant like hard to the right. So
I don't even know anymore.
Soft right is like alt-right light.
It's just a derogatory term when they want to shut somebody down. So
gotcha.
Whatever. I mean, there are certainly bigots in every corner of the world, but labels are what destroy us in boxes. But let's get to other news, because I'm done talking about libertarians, those trashy garbage humans. But
hairy nipples.
They're dirty cult nipples. But what else you got? You got more? I mean, of course, we've got
really much else going on in the news.
We're obviously going to have to talk about the George Floyd stuff, and that's 90% of what I have open. But do you have anything else before we get into that?
Well, apparently COVID-19 is still going around.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, I'm not gonna bang that into the ground any more than it has been. But the epicenter has moved to Mexico City, so we can look forward to that. And I'm sure that's gonna spread. People like saying, hey, nobody come in from Mexico because you have COVID-19, and then we're gonna all be called racists and stuff like that. So we got that to look forward to. But that's really about it. I mean, there's a lot going on lately.
So on the topic of like shutdowns and COVID and stuff like that, I do have to share this with you. Can you see what it is?
I can't really tell what it looks like. A burger.
It's a big fat juicy bacon cheeseburger that I got last night in a public location in Illinois.
Wow.
On the first day, I believe it was the first day of our soft reboot and reopening.
So I don't really know what that's like, because I mean, our restaurants did close down, but it wasn't like when the restaurants did reopen, it wasn't like, oh, let's all flock to the restaurants. For me, because we've kind of, I mean, been able to still eat good food. We just had to get like takeout and stuff like that.
Right. Well, we've had takeout, but I don't know. I don't know. I did think it was entertaining. Like, me and Kayla went out last night, and it was kind of awesome because there was a sign on the door. You go in and order, and I don't even think you're technically supposed to go in and order. I think you're supposed to just go into the outer space. They expanded their outer area. Like, it was all outdoors.
You said outer space.
Outer space, yes. But they had a sign on the door that said, when you're in close contact with other people, you have to wear a mask and do all this yada yada stuff. And then we go inside, and they see that we're not wearing masks, so they just take theirs back off. They're like, yeah, we're here for appearances. And I'm not going to say where it was because I don't want to get people in trouble, but there wasn't a single freaking person there that had a mask on. We're all over it.
Well, that we are not as a society all over it, because I went to, where did I go today? Target, and it was like 90% of the people were still wearing masks, and I'm just like, this is crazy. And have you seen the videos of people screaming at other people for not wearing masks in public? It's just so fucking ridiculous. Like the level we go to
Shame
point
people.
somebody else, shame other people. And then there's that CNN video where the reporter is out there trying to shame people walking by. He's like, yeah, these people, it's like they're not even concerned for their own safety. Like, I don't see anybody. Like, look at this guy right here. And nobody's really concerned to wearing masks. He's like, not even your cameraman. And he's like, not even, yeah, shit. And then you can hear the guy in the background. He's like, half your freaking crew's not even wearing masks. And then they like cut back to the main anchor woman. And she just kind of breezes past. It's like, you can't breeze past that. You're fucking.
In other news,
how can you be out? Like, I could see the anchor woman sitting there where nobody around can hear her saying it and be like, oh, look at all those people, like saying it in his ear, look at all those people like not wearing masks. But to be blatantly out on the streets shaming people, saying, oh, they're not even concerned for their own safety.
Shaming like, people on the news, like pointing cameras at people and saying, you're bad, while the guy who's pointing the camera is not wearing a mask.
Right. Like, at least for appearances, put your own fucking mask on while you're saying it. You can take it off after if you want, but put it on while you're saying this. Come on.
Pretend like you care about what you're talking about.
Serious. I mean, it's such bullshit the way it's being handled right now. And then you get people like go in the gas station and bitch that the attendants aren't wearing masks while that person himself is not wearing a mask. It's like, you are that concerned about somebody else wearing a mask. Why the hell aren't you wearing a mask? You can't say anything until you put a fucking mask on yourself.
Yeah, and I've heard that our local Walmart no longer requires you to wear it to go in. They recommend it strongly for whatever that's worth. But I think it's like I got to the point where I would wear it as I walked past the bouncer. And then after I got past the bouncer, I would take it off because there are some people who have medical conditions and they have to explain themselves. Once I get past the bouncer, nobody's going to come up and ask me, hey, well, what are you doing? Because they're going to assume that I explained myself and we're past that already. But I hear that they're not even doing that anymore. They're just saying, hey, we wish that you would do this, but you don't have to.
No.
And so there's probably like about 80% mask, 20% not mask in our local Walmart at this point.
That sounds about what it is here too. You still see idiots driving around in their cars wearing masks in their own personal cars.
To protect themselves from themselves.
Yes, breathing in their own personal germs in their masks. So they're protecting themselves from themselves while they're themselves breathing in themselves. Makes sense.
All right. We got to talk about something other than COVID, because this will be 3 months in a row that we've done the anti-news on COVID. So,
okay.
As everybody else in every other news outlet, we will now pivot to the news of the day. And pretend like coronavirus doesn't matter.
Nope.
Because once a tragedy strikes, the virus goes away. The virus goes away. And we use this new thing depending on who's talking, we use it to push our agenda in one way or another. Everybody does. So
it's like, well, shit, this COVID thing's not really getting us the ratings it was before. So it's time to shift to something else. Okay.
So this George Floyd thing, I did the AntiNews hot take yesterday. Put that out yesterday. I actually recorded it the day before and said, I said what I said. And Greg, you pretty much agreed with that assessment of, do I think it's a good thing to riot? No. To loot? No. I don't think it's necessarily helpful. But at what point do we say, fuck it, we are humans and we have to fight for our right to life? If the official story is true and there's a man who is being murdered in the street in broad daylight while people point cameras at him and his dead eyes look into the camera while he murders somebody from the state, the government, the police, stuff like that. At what point is rioting the answer? Because at some point it's war and you have to defend your people. Craig, what are your thoughts?
It is a really crazy situation. I think everyone is a lot of people are getting on the same page. A lot of the people that would have stood by and kind of the same viewpoints we had maybe 6 months ago, or the last time something like this happened, where it's like, well, the cops, yeah, there are shitty cops out there, but for the most part, we don't know the whole story. We don't know, was he really like waving a gun? We know the whole story. Well, maybe not the entire story here, but we saw enough to know that this guy was not fearful of his life. He wasn't in any kind of danger when he had his neck on, or not his neck, his knee on the back of this guy's neck, crushing his trachea into the sidewalk. Even after the guy clearly passes out, and he continues to pin him down by his knee.
And it was 3 minutes after. I mean, y'all can fact check us on all this because I'm just going off of other sources and stuff. This is what the show is. But 3 minutes after one of the other cops said that he couldn't find a pulse, 3 minutes later, they got off of him. So can't find a pulse. Seems like the guy's dead. Let's just stick around. Hang out. Nothing else is going on. Might as well make sure he's dead.
Yeah. And as you said, as he stared coldly at the camera, it reminded me of, I know you have dogs. Do you ever like watch a dog take a shit and it's staring you in the eyes and you're just fucking pissed off at that dog? Like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? That's so disrespectful that you are staring at me in the eyes while you take a shit. And that's what this officer did. He's doing a shitty thing while he's staring you dead in the eyes. Like, I'm doing this right now. What are you going to do about it?
Right. And I'm getting a little bit of an echo on your end. If like from
you. I don't know if it's from me or from you.
It's from you.
I don't know how.
I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I don't have so much of that issue with my own dogs, but the neighbor's dog, who is like a Great Dane, it's basically the size of a human on all fours. When that thing squats over and stares you in the eyes, you know he means business. You know it's just like, it's like a, it's a power move. It's like, look at it. What are you going to do?
Like, can you see that? You see what I'm doing here? Yeah, right. I'm doing this right now.
But yeah, so as you guys know, we talked about conspiracies and all that stuff, and we'll get into all that. Yes, I think it's undeniable that a man was murdered by a cop, and we'll say that definitively. I will. We'll get into some of the other weird shit that's going on around this stuff that is absurd. But at the very least, a man, in my opinion, a man was murdered, and this cop was like, it's like you said, the dog thing, it's like an ego boost. It's like he was surrounded by people who were questioning his ego and pushing his ego to the limit, and he's like, no, I'm just gonna hang out because you can't tell me what to do. That's all I know. This guy's not gonna die, or he is. Doesn't matter to me. So
exactly. Yeah, let's get into it, because there's also a lot of like shady stuff going on.
Yeah,
that we should probably at least talk about, considering we are kind of a conspiracy theory podcast.
Oh yeah, I've got a list.
Yeah.
So here's some of the things that we know, and this was posted by a friend of the show named, I'll just say Tim, last night. I don't know if he wants his name shared necessarily, so I won't share his last name, but you know who you are, Tim. But this is part of the list, and I added some more things to it as we went on that is just weird about this thing. Again, not saying that what we believe happened didn't happen, just saying this is weird. Number one, killer cop had killed before, and Amy Klondike Bar, or Klobuchar, got him off. Number two, the cop's neighbors didn't know he was even a cop. I don't know the specifics on that.
That's possible.
I'm not sure, but we could probably look it up, but that's not what we're here to do. We're not here to be accurate. We're here to talk. But number three, it sure seems like an undercover cop busted windows and started fires in these protests and stuff. We'll get into that.
At the very least, somebody, if not an undercover cop, then somebody that really didn't want his identity known and was even amongst the other protesters, like you'd think, hey, we're all in this together. If we're all protesting together,
Right.
he didn't let that happen.
Let's jump back to that and talk more in depth on it because I've got a lot of thoughts on
Okay.
it. I'll just get through this list. For the wheelchair lady, there's people saying that she's a crisis actor and she was involved in, I think, Boston Marathon bombing or something like that. Very weird. Did you not see that?
I saw that post was all. I didn't look into it, but of course.
I haven't looked into it either too extensively, but just interesting. Number 5, Floyd made pornos. Nothing against that, just a fun fact.
That makes it really shady because Floyd made pornos.
This has nothing to do with anything but fun facts. Number 6, CNN, their arrests yesterday, I believe it was. The cops arrested CNN reporters, which we will talk about that more too. Number 7, Floyd used to work with the killer cop as club security. They worked together for like a year, I believe it was. That's odd. And it kind of lends to apparently the cop said something like, "Not so tough now, are you?" Which, of course, on the surface, you would assume that it was like he had a scuffle and then he's like, "Oh, you're not so tough now." But if they have a history together, then that raises a whole bunch of red flags and a whole bunch of vendetta possibilities here with him saying something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't hear what the conversation was before. Like, he might have been talking shit, and that's why he said it. But from the looks of it, the guy wasn't trying to posture up or anything. He was just freaking sitting there at the moment of his attempted arrest. So,
do you know what he was allegedly arrested for?
It was like fraud.
It was a counterfeit $20 bill.
That's what he deserved to die over?
That's what I hear. Fact check me, please, because I hope it's not true. But from what I hear, it was a counterfeit $20 bill that caused the entire country to be in an uproar and burn itself to the ground.
If
I will pay you the $20.
That's what I was going to say. If I was a cop and somebody called the cops for a counterfeit $20 bill, clearly the guy's in a position where he needs $20. I'd have been like, look, man, cut this shit out. Here's $20. Go buy your cigarettes. Go buy your beer, whatever you're buying, or buy your
maxi pads. I don't know what you need for your life.
How shitty would have been if he was like trying to buy his insulin at a freaking pharmacy just to stay alive, and he had to counterfeit a $20 bill, and then they called the cops on him, and
then the Civil War exploded.
The Civil War exploded because this guy just wanted to stay alive.
Right. Yeah, and because of this, these are like.
First of all, would you call the cops if you were a gas station or store clerk over a $20 fraud bill? Would you call the cops, or you would just be like, dude, no, take it back?
It would depend on the rest of the situation. I don't know. You never know. You don't know what the store clerk's day was like or whatever. And if he's like, are you fucking kidding me? And then he's like, hey, go get that guy. That doesn't mean the store clerk said, hey, please go track this guy down and murder him.
I think I would have just knowingly looked the guy in the eyes and been like, you have a nice day. I would have pulled a $20 bill out of my wallet and threw it in the cash register just to make him feel like shit for doing it.
Right.
Everybody walks away alive, though.
Right. And all of this obviously is hearsay. I don't know if it's completely true, whatever. Even if it was, I mean, I feel like it's pretty well documented that the man was unarmed. He was not being violent. He was not being aggressive. And then this happened. So even if it was something worse, even if it was fraud on a grander scale, doesn't warrant this. It doesn't. Right. So, I mean, if it was a $20 counterfeit bill, that's just insult to injury and, well, insult to murder at this point. So, yes. And then the final very strange thing, in my opinion, is Dr. Michael Baden is performing an independent autopsy on Floyd. Do you know what else? Do you know what else he's done?
Yes. He did the private autopsy on Jeffrey Epstein. Is
Jeffrey
that real?
Epstein, and he was involved in what's his name? Juice. O.J. Simpson's case.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So he
Why is
pops up in
this guy
strange
around?
places.
Like, I don't understand why he just is here on all these weird, very publicized autopsies. And what is there really to check in an autopsy, like a private autopsy? The guy clearly like was suffocated
Right.
due to a man's knee on the back of his neck,
Right.
shoving him into the ground. And from what I've heard or read it or heard it from somebody, that's like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu move that like isn't even allowed in like law enforcement because of the possibility of crushing your trachea, which is probably what happened in this situation. And so yeah, this guy was performing a tactic, I guess you could
Well,
say.
there is a
that
name for
wasn't
it.
allowed.
That is the reason why cops are not supposed to do this. I said it in my video that I put out yesterday, but it's some sort of asphyxia from like hog tying people by cops and doing this exact thing that they did. Because I heard somebody making the claim that you can't be suffocated from pressure on the back of your neck. You absolutely can. It's proven.
You
So
can when your neck is pressed through the concrete of the sidewalk. Yeah.
well, it doesn't. It's not even that. It's just like if your body is contorted in weird ways, it can't breathe right. So you can be suffocated even if you're not being strangled.
Yeah, like that's the primary cause of death when you're crucified is
right.
Your body no longer.
Let's not get religious, Craig.
I'm
Come
not.
on.
That's not a religious thing. That's a historical thing. Like you have your body stretched out like this, and you're hanging down. Like it
you
gets
suffocate
harder
before.
Yeah. Yes. So, that said, yeah, he was cuffed at that point, wasn't he? Like
I don't know if he was cuffed.
I'm.
It doesn't really matter if he was cuffed
like,
because his hands were behind his back.
Right. I feel
There were
like
4 people involved.
one of the other cops got cuffs on him, yet he still was held down like that. Like,
right.
I want to hear their side, the cop side of the story, just to see, not because, oh, there's got to be another side to it. No, I just want to hear what bullshit.
How do you fucking justify this?
Right. Like, what bullshit are you going to come up with to say, oh, I felt threatened, even though the guy's hands were tied, even though the guy hadn't resisted at all from what I could see. I mean, they do go behind the car and then come back. The video, like they stand him up. He's not resisting. They walk him around the cop car, and then the camera, the person filming, kind of goes around so that then you can see him on the ground. So I don't know what took place behind the car, whether or not he resisted slightly, but at the time of death, he was not resisting in any way.
Even if he like even if he punched a cop in the face before all this went down, it's still too much. It's still unnecessary acts of violence on the cops' part. They should be getting him under control and getting him in the cop car.
That's why they have tasers.
Right.
Just taser the fucker and he falls down. He can still breathe. He might piss himself, but he still breathes.
Right.
Put cuffs on him, throw him in the freaking car.
Yeah, so let's go through all these things a little bit. The first thing that I want to point out before we get into the specifics is that people are saying that people are trying to act like the conservative right aren't in support of these protests. I would say that they absolutely are. I would say that everybody, any sane person, is on the same page at this point. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that conservatives have been pissed off for the last 3 months that the cops aren't allowing them to go out and open their businesses. So conservatives are already not in, they're like inching their way out of the thin blue line cult and getting a little bit pissed off at the powers that be. So when something like this happens, like you got to be a psychopath to not be like, dude, what the fuck? Like, everybody's on the same page. Let's start there.
I've seen a couple different sides. A lot of people are kind of taking the same stance of us, like, wow, this has really gotten out of hand and we can't really even justify anything anymore. And so it's just like you see all these people, it's like violent protesting isn't the way to do it. It's blah, blah, blah. It's not how you get shit done. It's like,
how do you get shit done then?
Shit is not getting done, though. Like, it's still happening, even though there's been peaceful protests for how long now? There's been violent protests for how long? Nothing is getting done. And I did see somebody posted on Facebook, they're like, you look back through history, and every time something really critical got accomplished, it was by destroying shit. So I'm not saying violence or looting is. I'm not promoting that in any way.
Not promoting it, but I can only condemn it so far.
Right.
Like,
I mean, you got to get attention, and there are the bad eggs that are stealing shit from Targets and still like running out with TVs. That's not doing anything for your cause. If you're like burning down the cop shop, that's a protest. That is a violent protest, but that is a protest. It's not looting. There's a difference between violent protesting and
nobody's
looting.
breaking into the cop shop to steal their Windows 95 computers that they're probably still working on.
And then on top of that, a friend of mine, actually Bill, my new co-host, posted something saying, he's like, why are you burning down your own neighborhood and looting your own neighborhood to prove a point? He's like, I'm not saying don't prove a point, but shouldn't you focus on maybe the people that you're like against? He's like,
just focus.
Go to a white suburban neighborhood and burn it down and show them what it them what it's like to
be,
live in.
Be angry. Obviously, I don't support that necessarily either, but it would make a lot better point than burning down your own neighborhood. Be angry. Absolutely be angry. I'm not condoning violence, but if you're going to do it, at least focus on the goal here, because otherwise this turns into the big racial discussion of conservative news will use it to make minorities look bad, and the other way around. Like, I just want people to realize that this is an issue of white cop on black dude violence. We don't know if the white cop was a racist necessarily. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. I don't know. But the major issue is cops on humans violence. That is cop on human murder that is not necessary. And it's all because they have way too much power. And if we can all agree, hey, we don't like cops killing black people. We also don't like cops killing white people or Latina people or any other people. We don't like cops killing people. We don't like cops having power to this extreme. We like cops where they're supposed to be, which is to serve and defend and protect us. They're supposed to be public servants, but instead they are enforcers of arbitrary laws 90% of the time.
Right. Yeah. Where was I going to go with this?
I don't know. I've just been pissed off the last couple of days. So
no, it is like it's crazy. We kind of both shifted views at the exact same time because you posted your little take on it yesterday, and I texted you. I was like, I commented on the video. I was like, dude, I thought we were gonna have to argue on this one because I've definitely had the same kind of shift in mentality after this one. And you had said something that you thought I was going to call you a soft lefty after your video. No, I don't think that's being a soft lefty at all. I think, and I told you then, I was like, we are both kind of the mindset of fuck the system. And this is an example of where the system is clearly flawed and broken. And if we don't get on the same page of fuck the system, then we're just hypocrites in what we're saying. Like, oh, the government's bad, but oh, these people shouldn't be irritated that the government's bad because, So.
And so, yes, I fully support the Black Lives Matter people when they're protesting, and they're not like hurting innocent people. Yes, I support all the protesters when they are even rioting, as long as they're not like killing innocent people who are not involved. It's just like, where is the fucking line though? Like, I don't really know, because there's like the video of the black guy in Minneapolis who opened a sports bar with his entire life savings, and he's like crying because he was in the wake of this destruction, and so he lost everything. Like, there is a right and there is a wrong. I'm just not sure where the line is, but I'm leaning more towards, hey, shit's fucked up. Let's fuck some shit up because I'm pissed off. But I don't know. Again, I think that we need to focus more on, hey, cop violence in general and government power in general. And especially for us not racist people, we need to all band together as a people and as the real power to stand against the system instead of making it into a racial thing, which the mainstream media is desperately trying to make everything into a racial thing, which is going to lead to a civil race war. Even in the other thing that we're talking about with the cop going and busting out the windows, I mean, I'm assuming it's a cop. It's almost proven that it's a cop, even if it's not a cop. It's something shady going on there. But the way people are reporting on that is white dudes are undermining this black protest. No, it's probably a cop and definitely an asshole who's undermining a protest by stirring shit up.
Right, and the protesters are clearly pissed about it because they're
telling him to stop.
They're probably there to make a point and not look like the assholes that are looting. And then this guy's just walking around with a hammer and a freaking purple gas mask breaking out windows right in front of everybody. And then he starts to walk away. And the one guy's like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you doing? And he starts falling around. He's like, are you a fucking cop? And he gets like close to him. And the guy's like, the guy with the umbrella is like, come any closer, I'm going to punch you in the face.
And the guy's like, hold on, somebody hold my blunt. I'm going to go after.
And the guy keeps on going. It's just like, oh, it's so funny because I want to see this guy get his ass kicked. Now, I want him to be exposed.
Which guy? Be clear. Which guy?
The umbrella man.
Yes.
The purple gas mask man. Because if he is there to stir shit up, he's obviously not there to be a protester because a protester would be protesting, not just breaking windows and then acting like he doesn't want to be seen anywhere around there. He is there just to make a mess. Whether it's a cop, whether it's a white dude, a black dude, it doesn't matter. This guy probably needs his ass kicked because the whole point is being missed because
this guy is sabotaging it.
And and so there were posts out there. Did you see the text messages that were supposedly going around from the ex of the supposed undercover cop that they think this guy was?
Yes.
Do you have those by chance, or should we find them?
I don't have them up.
I'll look them up.
But it's basically this one girl saying, hey, is this so-and-so? And she's like, yeah, why? She's like, well, this shit's going on. She's like, oh my God, that's my gas mask. Those are my gloves. That's my hammer. That's my umbrella. Like, so I don't know. Of course, those could be doctored. I don't know if they are. I lean towards. I don't even know where I lean on that. Like, it'd be so easy to fake, but
the guy's eyes look a lot like, which you can't really. Well, you know what they need to do? They have iPhone has their face scan thing now where they can recognize you with your freaking face mask on. Scan that motherfucker's eyeballs. You should be able to tell who that is. Come on, Apple. Get your shit together.
Yep. So, in my opinion, the powers that be are trying to turn this into a race war straight up. There are people who are claiming that there's some shady stuff going on around the murder that, in my opinion, I wouldn't be surprised if it was not that it was staged necessarily, but that it was intentional to stir some shit up from the get-go. And then there's of course the more ridiculous conspiracy people who are like, all of these riots are fake, all these riots are staged. It's like, I know people that are there. Do you think that they're all in on it? Do you think that my friends are in on these protests? I don't know. But
I saw a post of somebody that I knew on, I can't even remember who it was now, but he was actually up there and he was commenting on the different stuff that he saw. He said a lot of it was like probably 60% white people protesting though, which is kind of interesting to me. Yeah. And I know we bitch about like self-hating white liberals that are always like trying to be the voice of the minorities, and probably a lot of the minorities are like, dude, just shut the fuck up. But I don't see
cancel culture assholes.
Yeah, I don't see us as doing that right now. We're not like, oh fuck white people are bad because we are white people. It's stupid.
I would be there if it was a little bit closer. And me and Kayla were talking last night, and you and I were talking about going to Minneapolis, going to Chicago, going to join some of these protests. It's just a matter of a really long drive and a really busy week. But I definitely want to be there because this is bullshit.
sound that shitty. It's like, well, we want to protest with you, but sorry, we're busy, guys, and it's such a long drive.
Yes.
God, we're assholes.
I do want to be there, and I support them fully as long as innocent people aren't being harmed. Outside of the innocent people who are being tear gassed by the cops for peaceful protest, which is also bullshit.
Yes. Then there is, I'm waiting because move over to not Minneapolis, Detroit. Did you see that? Because you remember what, a month ago there was the white dudes with their AR-15s that were like staging protests at the Capitol.
Yeah.
Like they were just fully armed.
Yeah.
Well, I support that because there is literally no laws on the books in Michigan that you can't carry a gun into the Capitol, a loaded gun. There's no law. So, I mean, if they tried to pass something really quick, but it didn't go through, that you can't have guns on the Capitol.
That's no worse than a peaceful protest, in my opinion, as long as nobody's getting shot.
Exactly. Well, 2 days ago, when this whole thing kicked off, 2 days ago or yesterday, a bunch of African-American guys staged the exact same protest, just an armed protest like that. And they were to show that black people can perform a nonviolent protest. I mean, I was just waiting for Detroit to completely show their asses and like something. And not that I wanted hell to go break loose down there, but it's just like, how shitty would that be that nothing happened for all these white dudes, but then the black dudes come in and do the exact same thing and they all get shot. I mean, just prove their point, prove that how shitty America is.
Right.
But from what I've heard, nothing has really happened yet.
From every single thing that I've seen, from every single angle, in my opinion, this is a push for divide and conquer. By whether it's like shadow government, Illuminati, blah blah blah. You don't even have to believe that, but the mainstream media is pushing this hardcore as white versus black. A white guy killed a black guy. White people don't care about black people in this circumstance. Like they're hardcore pushing that. Just this big division, and it's really, really fucking pissing me off.
Well, it's kind of backfiring. I'm seeing a lot of white people that are like, man, this is really fucked up. Yeah, they have the pissed off.
Yeah.
But I have seen a lot of super ultra conservative people that are talking about the protests and like, oh, this is stupid. What does all this do? Trump needs to send in the National Guard. It's like, fuck
no,
you, dude.
Okay, so here's one of the biggest issues in stuff like this. When you have a protest and the protest is about too much power and too much violence from the cops and the police force, and people show up to peacefully protest, and you send out all the police force in SWAT gear, that's just instigating. Like, if they were going there to peacefully protest, suddenly you just gave them the big middle finger because you're like, you don't like the overruling police force? Here they all are. Like, that's just instigating. In my opinion, it's like, you keep the police force away completely until something happens, and then you send them in. Have them at the ready to go if they need to be to break something up. But that is completely asking for shit to happen. And sending in the National Guard especially is just a big fuck you to the whole protest. For anybody who is peacefully protesting, there are peaceful protesters that I'm friends with on Facebook who have been tear gassed when they did absolutely nothing wrong at this point. So, yeah, what's the answer?
Yeah, like I said, this guy was commenting specifically on the looting and stuff, and they should send in the National Guard to it's just like, no. Since when does that ever end up in a good results?
Send the army to save a TV. That'll help.
Yes. I get that. Yes, it sucks for all these private businesses and stuff. What is the answer? Like, what's the answer? I mean, obviously, people like Colin Kaepernick, we bitch and rant about him because he takes a knee and stuff like that. And
well, it's not him taking a knee; it's him making money off of taking a knee and using it for his profession.
And we bitch about that, but that that does nothing. Obviously, nothing has changed in like as far towards police brutality. You get peaceful protests all the time, all over the country. This still happens. Shit like this still happens. What is the solution besides saying we are fucking pissed off?
Right.
Like, and people keep saying how Martin Luther King said the best weapon is peaceful protesting, and
No, they've said riots. Riots are the voice of the unheard or unlistened to or something like that.
Well, I get that, but most people are quoting him as saying peaceful
So
protest.
you can quote him either way. Like you
Yes.
can quote him on both sides.
But it's like, what has that gotten in the last? I mean, has things toned down more since like the 80s or since like Rodney King and stuff like that? Have things toned down? I mean, you don't hear about it as much. I mean, there's not people just being publicly lynched and stuff like that like in the 60s, but people are still
Murdered in the streets.
seems to be primarily African Americans are being murdered in the streets. And what do you do with that? And I had another question. If you're that man's friend, or even if he's not a black guy, say you're a white guy, and your white friend gets attacked in the street and murdered in the street.
You come out swinging. You come out burning.
You have the right as a licensed, concealed carry licensed, carrying a gun. Do you have the right to pull a gun out and shoot that motherfucker?
Yes.
I mean, don't say, oh, he's promoting cop killing. And I'm saying not even in a cop situation.
I'm promoting civilian rescuing, no matter who it is.
Right. Or in the very least, do you have the right to go beat the shit out of the person that's beating the shit out of your friend and trying to murder him? I mean,
I said to somebody, all these people are standing around filming, and I don't blame them for not being willing to get shot attacking this cop, but how, I don't know, like there's so many people there filming it. We have it from so many different angles. How was there not at least one person who was like, dude, fuck this, and just like bum rushed the guy? Like at some point, the people have to stand up and be willing to get shot in order to save a human.
Hell, there's 4 cops with guns. A mob of 20 people can, at least, in the very least, get him off the guy for a half a second so he can catch his breath.
Right. They could save a life at least, but of course they'd probably end up getting shot.
Right. Well, obviously these cops don't seem like the type that would just sit back and assess the amount of danger that they're not in, because these aren't armed people. They're just pissed off people. So you don't have to go shooting. I mean, if he would have just stood up, it would have saved everybody a lot of hassle right now. And like I said, I'm not promoting violence on cop violence. I'm promoting, like, bad shit is happening, and it is your duty, I think, to do something about it, not just stand around and watch it happen. And if that means somebody that's perpetrating unnecessary violence against your friend gets shot in the face or gets punched in the face, sorry, that happened. You were murdering somebody. You had it coming.
Right. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I know that the answer is not, hey, let's just sit back and take it. So now what? Where is the line between quote unquote riots and quote unquote war? When do we say, hey, fuck you all, you are killing us, like shamelessly murdering people in the street, so we can go to war now and we can kill you?
Right.
Not saying kill cops. I hate that we have to, like, on either side, we have to like like justify our statements with not saying this, but this.
Not trying to be a racist.
Not saying kill cops. I'm saying stop murderers in whatever way you have to do so.
Right. Then shit, where was it going? God damn it. Like people will say, oh, there's always going to be the bad eggs. There's going to be that one bad cop that does something stupid out of all the good cops. However, the fact that how many days did it take before that guy was arrested and charged?
Well, I mean, I've heard
if you were caught on video smashing somebody's trachea and killed him, how long would it take for you to get arrested?
I don't know, and I have heard the argument that the reason why it took so long is because it's better for them to wait a little bit and gather more evidence so that they have a better case against the guy, so that when they bring him in, he won't get back out on bail if they have enough evidence over a day. It was only a day and a half, I believe, maybe 2 days, something like that, before they brought him in. But yeah, I can see why people would be pissed off, because if a cop was there filming me murder somebody in the street, they would take me, lock me up immediately. I don't think they would take 2 days to gather evidence. No.
No, you would be arrested immediately. They would grab you and lock you up, and then they would go find the evidence against you.
Right.
Guaranteed. Right. But yeah, I've heard, I've heard people say, like, all these protests, it's only happening because Minneapolis is a sanctuary city, or it's just like,
fuck off.
what the hell does that have to do with anything?
That's just making this more politics instead of
it's all
stop people from murdering people.
Yes. And the other thing was the charges they brought him up on was manslaughter and third-degree murder. Have you ever heard of third-degree murder?
I didn't know there were that many degrees of murder. I thought it was murder or not murder, like accidental murder, intentional murder, or not murder.
Yes. Well, there's, I think first degree is obviously it was planned. You planned to kill this guy. You did something that resulted in killing somebody, and that's what you intended to do. Second degree is you did something that you intended to hurt the person, and they died. Manslaughter is you did something that resulted in their death, and that was not your intention.
Right.
Like, say you were like texting and driving and ran somebody over. You could get manslaughter for that. It's not like you intended to hurt them or intended to kill them. So then what is third degree murder then? Because I feel like we've covered
third degree murder is it wasn't intentional. What's second degree?
What you intentionally meant to cause harm that resulted in their death. You didn't intend to kill them, but you intended to hurt them.
That's it. But then you've got this third level, this third degree, that is, I had a badge on while doing it. That's the third degree.
That makes sense. That takes first degree all the way to third degree just because you had a badge on.
Yes, absolutely.
I did something and I intended him to lose his life.
It's like cheat codes. Yeah.
Oh, God, that makes sense.
Yeah. And we've already been talking for quite a while. What are we at on time here? Do you have the feed pulled up? Are you one of the 4 people watching? You're muted. Go start your own podcast.
One of the 5, mine says. Hang on just a second. Yeah, it doesn't say how long.
All right. Feed pulled up.
What's that?
Are you one of the 4 people watching? You're talking to the feed. You're muted. Go start your own podcast. I hate you so much right now. That happened at. Oh my God! Mute you if you have to. But that happened, I think, on Joe Jorgensen, or maybe it was Jacob Hornberger, one of the people who were the front runners in the convention. There was they were watching the feed, and then somebody said something. I'm pretty sure it was Joe Jorgensen, but somebody said something. She was like, "What?" And then her feed was playing, and they were like, "Your feed is playing," and she couldn't hear that. But then she heard them say something, and she was responding to that. It was really funny. Pretty sad. I'm not gonna say she. It might have been Joe, or it might have been Jacob, or somebody else. I don't know. I don't remember. Doesn't matter. But boomers. Anyway, which Craig is apparently one of. Pretty sure it was Joe Jorgensen.
Doing this.
Somebody said something. That's what I'm saying.
Stop doing
and then
that.
So we've got, as a result of this, we pretty much had the most massive riots that we've ever had. Like, this is history in the making right now. And I say, I have a hard time saying, don't keep it going. Like, keep the voice going. Keep the voice being heard. Stop hurting innocent people if you possibly can. But in a war, there will be casualties. There will be innocent civilian lives. I don't endorse it, but I can see why it happens. So going through my list here, Floyd made pornos. I haven't even fact-checked that. Don't really care. But
what does that have to do with any
don't know.
Does that just make are we just trying to prove that he's a scummy person because he makes pornos? Or are they trying to say, why did this guy need to counterfeit a $20 bill if he sells pornos?
I don't know what they're trying to say. Just like I said, just fun Snapple facts. that people are pointing out. The cop's neighbors not knowing that he was a cop.
How does that even happen?
I don't know. And that combined with them having worked together at as club security for over a year.
Yeah.
But nobody knew that he was a cop.
Yeah, I'd like to check back on that because that is really sketchy. And
We'll probably have to do an update on this before the end of next month because there's a lot of things that are like, what the fuck? Give it a minute. Give it a minute because it's all changing rapidly. There was also, have you seen the picture, the mugshot of the cop?
No.
It doesn't look like the same guy.
Pull him up. Is there a side-by-side?
I could probably find it. Do you remember what his name is?
No, not at all.
All right.
Let me look.
You find the name and then I'll find the picture. Just put like George Floyd cop murderous asshole.
That's exactly what. Ex-Minneapolis cop charged with murder.
What's his name?
Ex-Minneapolis cop.
Well, that's not helpful.
Hang on, I'm looking. Derek Chauvin.
Okay.
Chauvin.
All right, here we go. 1 second. Let me pull this up in full screen. Screen share. This. Let me know when you can see it. Can you see it?
Started. No, just there it is. Got it.
Does that look like the same guy to you?
Not at all.
I mean, camera fuckery. I don't know, but that doesn't look like the same guy.
Weird.
Am I wrong?
I'm trying to compare.
Did he murder a guy, then go shave?
His hairline doesn't look the same at all.
His hair is like a lighter color in the cop shot.
Well, first of all, cops aren't allowed. I'm pretty sure cops are required to shave, similar to the military. Like if he showed up with that, like, I mean, maybe he was on duty for a while that day.
Like 4 days that day.
24 hours or something. He just is at the end of like super long.
That's quite a shadow.
That is quite a shadow. So for him to show up, I mean, now we're just picking at straws, I guess, but for him to show up to work that uncleanly shaved is not normal for a police force at all.
Yeah. I mean, the nose looks the same. Like the nose could pass. He's got that bump at the top.
Mm-hmm.
The eyebrows could pass.
Is that his mugshot or is that like?
I believe that's his mugshot on the left, but it's like
like he just joined the force 10 years ago, and this was the photo they took, like to put up on the website or something.
He looks 10 years younger in the left.
Yeah, exactly, that's what I'm saying.
And just the fact that his head looks shorter, maybe it's an optical illusion of the camera and the glasses on top of his head and stuff like that. But damn, like anybody that said that's not the same guy, I'd be like, obviously it's not the same guy.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm not saying it's not, but just another weird thing that's going on.
Yep. There's so much shadiness behind all this and so much weirdness behind all of it. But the guy is arrested as of right now. So.
Yes. So good. But what about the other three?
Right. The ones that.
Not all of which were white dudes.
No.
There's one Asian guy.
They should be getting like assisted murder charges or not doing something about it.
They're accomplices in one way or another.
One way or another, they are definitely accomplices. So yeah, I don't know. This whole thing is disgusting. Seeing that video was disgusting. Hearing the guy say, I can't breathe, and nobody doing a damn thing about it is disgusting.
Yep.
Like, it is ridiculous. And for the guy to say, not so tough now, it's just like, dude, you were just clearly trying to be an asshole. Even if you weren't trying to kill him, you were just blatantly overdoing the amount.
Ego power trip.
Yes. Like expressing how much power you have as a human, like tiny dick little need to overcompensate human something. I mean,
Right.
that's the only kind of explanation is I am overcompensating for something in life, and fuck you, I am a cop, I wear this badge, I can hold you down by the neck if I want to, and nobody's going to do a damn thing about it.
Got something to prove. And then everybody egging him on because his tiny penis can't handle people saying, hey, get off him, get off him, get off him. You are killing him.
Seriously, get off of him.
Go back to your Humvee.
If somebody would have fucking shot him in the face, they're cop killers now. And
this whole thing changes.
This is how dangerous it is for cops. They're out here on the streets getting shot. I mean, can you blame the guy?
Especially if Floyd lived because they killed him, because they hurt him even.
Sure, and then Floyd would probably be locked up. The guy that shot him would probably be killed accidentally in pursuit.
Immediately
in pursuit, he would have been killed, and the whole story would be hushed immediately and be flipped to cop is murdered by armed black civilians.
Yep.
That's how it would be swung. So it's just such bullshit. And yes, I feel like somebody who is intentionally murdering somebody deserves to get shot in the face. I'll keep saying it over and over and over because I think
badge or no badge,
whatever it takes to keep somebody from murdering somebody else, you escalate it to that and face the consequences after, I guess.
Yep. Just like Derek Chauvin did. Not really. Doesn't he seem like a chauvinist? Isn't it strange that that's his last name?
maybe there's something to that.
Of course there is. There's something to everything.
There's symbolism in there somewhere. I did hear that there was conspiracies around like his address being like you were saying. Yeah, you were saying in your video that there was like numerology or whatever.
Well, like somebody's pointing out the riots. The first riots happened on like 33rd Avenue or something like that. It's like, ugh, who cares? Who cares? My conspiracy brain shuts down and comes back at will. But I do have to pee really bad, so we can do some after party if we want to, but we've gone on for over an hour here, and we've probably well exhausted this. I'm sure there's much more to it. I'm sure even before this comes out as an official episode on Monday morning, there's going to be a million things that happen in the next 24 hours. So let's go ahead and wrap it up, and we'll see what happens after that.
Good.
Craig, any final thoughts?
I will probably obviously talk more about this on my podcast that I'm going to
shameless
Wednesday. So my shameless plug, go check out the Break the Bell podcast on Wednesday. Go to facebook.com/breakthebell. That's the stuff that I already said. Yeah, I'm going to get more into this. So if you hear things said twice, I'm sorry. This is just what's going on in the world.
Just so you guys know, the first episode of Break the Bell is going to be a rerun, so don't bother tuning in.
Not going to be a rerun. Bother tuning in. And there's a chance to win a prize, too. So definitely tune in for the chance to win a prize.
Is this going to happen every time?
What? Hey,
no.
Come on, man. I've witnessed your shameless plugging all over the last fucking 3 years. I learned it from you. So
it's true. It's true. All right. Well, Craig, thanks for being here, and we'll talk to you next time. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, please continue to question all this fucking bullshit. Stay very uncomfortable. Have fun, and hopefully we will be alive next time to do another one of these. But talk to you later.